Legacy in the room, yeah, we set the tone. Real conversations, it's more than a show. Strategy, power, how wealth really grow. If you're building something big, you already know. Welcome to the Legacy Lounge, where decisions get made. We don't talk it, we build it, and we pass it down for generations. Legacy. Legacy.
Good evening and welcome back to another episode of the Legacy Lounge. And I have with me one of the co-hosts, Miss V. What's going on, girl?
Hello. Listen, technical difficulties, but we made it nonetheless.
Yes, we're still here. Do apologize about the tardiness, but it's gonna be worth the wait because we always bring you something that you should be able to learn and implement from, and hopefully give us some feedback and join the conversation because that's the goal. Y'all see, we 3 minus 1 tonight. But she's here in the spirit. Our third co-host, Dee Dee. Hope you feeling better, and I think she's on vacation.
She's also on vacation, right?
Right. So tonight's topic is the fine print gets expensive. What fine print, you might ask? Contracts, compliance, and consequences. Oh my. But it could get messy, y'all. And that's what we're talking about tonight. So I'll let you start off, Miss V.
Listen, I think at the end of the day, because I know some people might join late, don't have time to listen to the whole thing. All this conversation boils down to is protect yourself. But don't make a contract or sign a contract that only protects you. Contracts should really be win-win. If you enter into business with somebody, that's because there should be a win-win there. And if you don't even see a win-win without a contract, then you're probably not doing business with the right person or other small business when at the end of the day. But I think one of the first places to start is I want to make sure people understand when should you have a contract ready to present to somebody versus when somebody should be presenting a contract to you. So I want to be really clear. And some people may say, well, that's kind of common sense, but you'd be surprised how many times you have people signing agreements, even in large corporations, signing agreements that really only protect the other party. And I've had firsthand experience with that where I was a manager in a department. I was responsible for signing documents to execute work that needed to get done, some downstream impacts. And if I didn't sign these documents, that was holding up a customer or client. And what I realized was I was overly uncomfortable signing those documents because those documents just protected the person providing me the document to sign, and I'm signing on behalf of a major corporation. So
Mm,
I presented my version of a similar document that protected both myself as the signer, protected the company I worked for at the time, and also actually protected the companies that would have to sign because it was multiple companies, not just one. They use that form even today. But the whole point of it is you have to make sure that that contract is covering you no matter
right.
what.
And that's what it's all about. Contracts and policies, they're like she said, they're for protection. And one of the questions that we had posed to the group and on our YouTube page was, how do you feel about contracts? Do you feel like they draw people closer or builds trust, or do you feel like it creates distance? And we actually had somebody comment on the YouTube channel. And so I invited for comments, and I told them if they commented that we would discuss it on live. I don't know if they're watching, but um, Daryl ID 369, his response was both. It only depends on the mental, on the individual. It's like if you see the glass half full or half empty. Both are true. It only depends on your perspective, as with most things in life. So I feel like any answer is a fair answer, but I did follow up with another question because I wanted to know in business doesn't matter about perspective, more so what actually makes sense, because perspectives can be different. And some people, they do business with friends or people that they know, and you have not put things in place to protect you for the what ifs. And these things need to be in place before it happens, because that's when those things that you forgot, fine print, can be highly cost, it can cost you a lot as a business owner or even a
Absolutely.
consumer. So you want to have those things in place.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a matter of if you have a contract that somebody's asking you to sign, you need to be evaluating that contract. The simpler the contract, my kind of personal rule of thumb, the simpler or the shorter the contract, I'm more comfortable reviewing it myself. It's not so much about how much money is involved or anything like that. I don't care if the contract is for $100. That $100 could cost you more in the long run, so you got to be careful with that. But I look at the contract and review it. If there's words I don't understand, guess what? Google is free, so to speak. Not really
Right,
free because the internet costs, but you get my point. Make sure you understand what you're signing. We're living in a digital age now. There's no reason, honestly, for nobody, for anybody whatsoever, to be signing contracts without some general understanding. If you're not afraid of utilizing AI, by all means, upload a PDF or screenshot copy of that document into your chosen AI platform, ChatGPT, Claude, what Gemini, what have you, and ask it to summarize that contract for you and go a step beyond that. And this is not saying that anybody is at this level, but you'd be surprised what these large corporations do when they put their contracts together. They literally say use a fifth to eighth grade level education when they're creating certain things. So you need to ask ChatGPT or Claude or whatever platform you're using the same thing. Simplify this as if I'm a fifth grader. Y'all remember that show? Are you smarter than a fifth grader? It's not even. If you ask questions to protect yourself, by all means, you're at least on the same level, as
right,
far as I'm
right.
concerned. Because most kids these days, when they negotiate for them snacks and them activities, listen,
Let up.
it's not about, again, it's the perception. Perception has a place, but the perception is what helps you start building your contract. It's not your foundation at all.
Right. That's a good point. And another thing that a lot of people don't realize, that, as a business owner, the founder is part of the risk. Contracts and policies, they can't protect the company from the owner. And if the owner is out here behaving recklessly, like you said, the contract you was working on was for a major corporation, and you represent that corporation, or you
Right.
represent that contract. So when you are out here writing contracts, you have to keep in mind what the goal is, and if you're in within the guidelines and the goals of whoever you're doing the contract for. Because sometimes we're
Right.
not doing contracts for ourselves. um,
Right.
Another part of having contracts, also, you have to make sure you include what happens if things are not done according to the contract. A lot of
Exactly.
business owners have guidelines and things in place, but if they don't comply, what is the consequence? There's no consequence just because you wrote it down. If you didn't write in that contract that if this person don't do this by XYZ, then this happens, you can't make up the consequence after they break the contract. So be sure that
Absolutely.
your contract covers, everything, so that you're protected as well as whoever you're working with.
Yeah. And sometimes it's hard when people say, well, when you say everything, I can't think of everything. You can't think of every scenario, but you can think of the fact that something could go wrong and there could be some major triggers. And it's not, having a contract is not intended to be a sign of distrust. It's literally a form of clarity. It takes those perceptions and what I thought you meant when you said, "Oh, you can have it all." No, you can't have it all, but you can
Right,
have all of this portion perhaps. It's a form of clarity. So how a person remembers a verbal agreement could be very different. So, to your point, the contract should clearly explain to a person what is who's responsible for what,
Hmm.
um, what is actually being delivered, like what's the outcome of us exchanging money or of us exchanging services, um, how much and when, payment is due, if there's payment involved, any deadlines and expectations. And one thing I have learned with building out contracts and reviewing different statements of work for a company I work with, you also need to build in communication touch points. So not just this is the time, oh, I'll have it done in 30 days. Maybe you need to check in 15 days ahead of time.
Right.
That might be important, so that you can make sure you're not derailing. And especially if you're working on something major and you don't have somebody like me who works as a project manager, you need somebody who can step in. What a lot of times what happens is a project gets started and you may have accounted for potential things that could go wrong, but in certain instances you're doing two or three other jobs, especially if you're a solopreneur, you don't have that visibility into seeing when things have changed. So you need to build in communication touch points so that you can make sure is the project going according to plan. And if it's not going according to plan, what's the contingency? Is it going to cost me more money for us not being on track? Does it require me to do more work that maybe I just don't have physical, or mental capacity to execute? You need to make sure if something changes, that's also covered in your contract so that you have a way to get out. And so your client has a way to get out, or your other business partner, or whatever the situation is, has a way to get out, but it's still a win win. It's no different than a prenuptial agreement in marriages. A lot of people, oh, I would never get a prenuptial agreement. And it's not always about what you have. Sometimes you don't have a lot and you say, well, I don't need a prenuptial agreement, or I love you so much, I would never do that.
Right.
Listen,
The love
I
change.
I pray and I rebuke that petty spirit and that bitter spirit, but baby, I can't control the spirits, okay? If
Right.
somebody loves you so much today and y'all enter into a business agreement and later on that person that you never thought would do that thing does that thing, you're gonna listen, you're gonna think back to this, that little voice in your head and be like, oh, I should have listened to them. I should have
Yeah.
got a contract. And if your friend, your business bestie is offended by you saying, let's put
Mm.
this in writing, that's not your
Not your
business bestie, boo. That's not your business bestie. I'm sorry. I hate to say that. And I'm not saying this to say that there are not plenty of situations where it works out. I am not saying that at all. But
hmm
you've got to use your discernment when it comes to setting up these contracts and knowing when to build in certain triggers. If you're working with a company, for example, and they have a major change in their business and it has an indirect or direct impact to your business, you would want to know.
Right.
As a small business, a lot of us we don't have compliance departments or partners or even a person in place. You usually are everything. You're wearing more hats than a lot of times you realize. It's not just your marketing and branding hat. You got to be your own compliance. If you're not hiring an attorney, you got to be your own legal guidance.
Right.
So you've got to figure out how to put certain checks and balances in there, and doing the communication piece sometimes will help you at least have a check-in.
Right. And if you're just joining us, we are talking about contracts and compliance and how that fine print can cost you a lot of money. So just to piggyback off what you just said, you had said something that triggered something, and I lost my train of thought because you had went to something else. My goodness, but like you were saying, the contracts, um, people do contracts for different reasons. And a lot of times, that's what it was, the friendship thing. Okay.
Hmm.
I started to post a video the other day and I recorded it and I said, nah. And I recorded it again. I was like, nah. But I'm gonna tell y'all what I was gonna say because we're talking about it. I know I have people that don't like to book on my calendar. Like they don't like the schedule. And this ain't just friends. Just some people don't like scheduling or don't like paying some deposits to secure a time with somebody. And I feel like people that don't do that have like a bigger issue of commitment And so I judge y'all very harshly.
Oh my gosh.
You don't have if you have a problem with scheduling an appointment to talk to somebody, or you have a problem with um, secure your spot by paying a deposit, I feel like you just have commitment issues. And I feel like you have commitment issues in every area of your life. I
Yeah.
feel like you probably plan things and don't see them through. I feel like you lead your significant other on thinking that they in a relationship, but you ain't committed. Like I exaggerate. So you got a problem with commitment. I know your contracts and compliance ain't together because it's gonna hold you accountable. But when you're doing your contracts, go back. That's my little rant. If y'all watching, tell me where y'all watching from. Hey,
All
I
right.
can't see who
Hello.
you are, but drop your state or your city. We're in North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina, so we want to see who's watching. And if you have any questions, be sure to post them in the. Well, we'll see them in the chat, but post it and we'll answer those questions in real time for you. But if you are trying to write contracts, don't you don't. It doesn't have to be this big immaculate thing, you know a lot of people hear contract and it does immediately cause a division. And unless you've experienced things with people not following through, then you're not going to understand the reason for contracts. But like Shamika said earlier, it's to protect you and the person that you are going into the contract with. um you also want to make sure that everything is clear, because at the end of the day, if you don't understand what you're trying to protect, if you don't understand what risks are actually involved, then you have no business trying to write your contract. Okay. If
Right.
you or whatever industry you're in and you're looking to put things in place, reach out to somebody that's been doing it longer. There are so many resources. There are free resources that can help you put together a nice contract or agreement or whatever you want to call it, so that there's something in stone. Once people start signing things, you're bound to it. So make sure that you're not saying anything in the contract that you don't want to say, and make sure that you don't forget anything. And if that contract is subject to change, because like Shamika brought up earlier, you could be writing contracts for a company, and then when that company changes something that affects you and whoever else the contracts are with, put a clause in there and just let them know this is subject to change per the company or whoever else is involved. And be sure that when those changes happen, they also have a certain amount of time to decide if they want to continue with that contract or not. Because once the contract change, I don't feel it's fair. I'm not a contract writer. I don't feel it's fair that you have to continue that contract if something changed. But maybe you can give us some more insight on that, Ms. B.
Um, Contract changes can happen, but again, your initial contract should build in certain contingencies or certain triggers. So if you're working with, let's use me and you as an example. I operate as a travel agent, amongst other things, and I know you offer certain services, to small businesses so that they can kind of give their companies, their employees, even small businesses, certain benefits, if you will. So let's say me and you work go into an agreement where I provide you with my travel agent portal, and that becomes one of your services that you're now using as a means to entice other businesses to come do business with you. If
Mhm.
I have a material change in my business, if I invited you under the incentive that every time somebody books a trip with me through, the portal that I've got linked up for you, and every time you get so many points, I'm going to give you a vacation voucher, for example.
Mhm.
If I no longer have the ability to provide you with a vacation voucher, that's a material piece of difference for you. If I
Right.
stop becoming a travel advisor, I have responsibility to notify you.
Mm.
If I don't notify you and now you're out here promoting these services and benefits to small businesses, and now they're trying to go book a trip and they no longer have them, I don't know what those people paid you because my contract isn't between My contract is with you. I don't know what your contracts are with them. So if
Right.
somebody says, hey, you charge me $500 a month for this service to provide this to my employees, and I no longer have it, and they can sue you for breach of contract, it's now costing you way more than what it should have. That's
Mm.
a reputational. There's different types of risks that you guys probably already know, you just maybe don't articulate them every day. But you've got operational risk, you've got reputational risk. Sometimes you may have other legal risks that come into play. um, you don't want to do anything to increase those risks, no matter what the topic is.
Right.
Today's topic, if you're just tuning in, we're just talking about the fine print, how it can get expensive if you avoid it. So what your contracts are doing for you, or how they're not protecting you, in essence, is what we're talking about. But you have to have some level of compliance built into your contract to help you make sure, again, you've got those touch points so you can ask the question outright. Hey, have you experienced a material change? And maybe they just experienced it the day before, and the email just got lost in your inbox. Maybe it was a month before, and they thought you got the email notification that something major changed, that again would have an upstream, downstream, indirect or direct impact to your business. You need to know those things, and you can build in a contract to say, hey, something change if something changes, I have the right to do X, Y, and Z.
Mm. Yeah.
Point blank, period. And
Yeah.
then if it ever has to go to a point of escalating to court, the court is not going to say, well, what did you think was going to happen? They're going to say, what did the contract say?
Contract say. That's right. And that's when you're speaking of reputation, that was another question that was posed on the YouTube channel, was asking about personal behavior. How does at what point does personal behavior become a business issue? And what type of contract or guideline or provision can be put in place to protect the company when you got somebody out here representing the company out here just acting a fool? That can
Absolutely.
cost business. It can cause people to not want to work with the company. And so things that you can put in place doesn't always necessarily have to be a contract. It could be things like provisions or clauses that would say something where, um, like, okay, you're not allowed to do this or that, on your social media, or you're going to
Hmm.
agree to always represent us in a respectful type of manner. But I suggest being more specific, because somebody can think that they're representing you in a respectful way, but
Hmm.
because it was not written and it was not specified, they don't know that cursing on their live made the company look bad because it's a Christian company, right? So you just
Right.
got to be very specific, as with anything. When we're communicating verbally, you want to understand the people that you're talking to, and so
Hmm.
when it comes down to contracts, it's just putting it on paper. I do this to my kids. I'm like, if we have a conversation, I'm about to type this up, and you're gonna sign it because you're not gonna tell me you did not say this yesterday, because
Hmm.
it's not a contract. I'm not taking my kids to court, but I'm training them to understand that people will hold you accountable, not only by what you say, but even more so with you signing and agreeing to things that you don't read. So
Yeah.
it's a practice all the way around.
Absolutely. That personal behavior is key because, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. You see it a lot when it comes down to certain Christian organizations, and people say, I it's not so much that they don't necessarily respect you or want to do business with you, but there's some things that, as to what they represent, they can't be and won't be associated with it. And it's one of those things, you have to respect a person who says, here's a boundary for me here, and that's what that is. You can have those clauses, those addendums, um, to your contracts to say, hey, and it's no different in any job you go to. You see videos all the time where employees are having altercations with customers, and a lot of times, if you were to take the fact that they were a employee off the table, they were probably in the right. But because you are an employee representing that company, they got fired. Yeah,
Yeah,
9 times out of 10, if that customer spit on you through the drive-through, you doggone right, you should have reacted. probably however you reacted. Um, but when you're representing a company, that's a hard, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is easy. That's a hard one. But
Right.
when you're talking business to consumer type interactions, like I remember my son has a clothing brand, and there was a prominent basketball player that wanted to do some type of NIL basically, where he would provide clothing for marketing exchange. That's basically the the exchange they were doing. We
Mhm.
worked out a contract, but I told him to make sure you included certain things, put a clause in there relating to his social media behavior so that you have the right to exit if he demonstrates something, including but not limited to
Right.
certain behaviors. Because you
Yes.
can't predict everything, but your verbiage can help cover a very specific and a slightly broader uh, number of behaviors that are not becoming of somebody you want to be associated with. I don't want to see you on social media waving guns and repping um my son's brand.
Uh,
You know what I'm saying? And it's not because we're not a gun family. We are absolutely a gun family. But that doesn't mean the brand has to represent guns are blazing and carrying on. If I see you sniffing a line of cocaine on your live, contract over, okay? Over.
no drug.
It's like what? Just
Not
saying.
in my brand you won't.
What?
That's
Like
crazy.
if I help you book a trip as a travel agent, and you tag me in one of your posts saying you're having a ball over here and I see you out here on the strip turning tricks or something, baby, untag, remove, delete. And that's not necessarily a contract, but you get the concept. I
Right.
don't associate don't associate that behavior with me,
Right.
because that's
Right.
not something I would do. Do what you do, and I'm gonna pray you don't do that. But don't
Leave
tag
my
me. Right? Don't tag
do
me
it
in
on
it.
your own time. I was gonna say, even when like if you write a contract or an agreement and you forget to list everything, even if you list something, it will provoke the mind to start thinking about being cautious of things. So if you just do address, conduct, behavior, or something like that, my mind is going to be like, well, oh, so it's certain things I can't do. And hopefully that person will ask you specifically if it's not listed in there. But what I'm saying is it at least going to have them thinking or knowing that, hey, I can't do certain things. And it'll make them ask, and maybe together y'all could come up with a better contract. So
Absolutely.
if you present a contract to somebody and they question it, don't get offended. Everything is a learning process.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's a learning process. So somebody might not agree to your contract. They might not want to behave a certain way. Don't get offended. That person just ain't your person. Find somebody that's
Absolutely.
willing to go along with your contract. But by no means should you lower your standards or your expectations if you don't feel like you're being, too strict or whatever. But
Yeah.
whatever your rules are, stand on them because it's your brand that's out there and it's your brand that needs to be protected. And don't nobody want to be sued just because two or three words was missing or two or three words
Right.
was put in and it wasn't.
Yep. Yep. So you want to make sure you're building in some type of notice of change or some type of change addendum or agreement to this that says, hey, how many days in advance do you need notice for certain for any change, contract revision notification, and there may be a specific term for it, and I just can't think right now. But in any event, you want to make sure that contract has it spelled out that if this contract needs to change, here's how here's the change management is what they refer to it as. Here's the change management that needs to happen
Mhm.
X amount of days beforehand. How will you notify me? Is this a quick text message? And just because we're friends doesn't mean a text message is okay. Does it need to be an email? Is it okay to email my personal or should you be emailing my business address? Do you
Right.
need to make a phone call? What does that change look like? And then you can sit down and determine, okay, hey, these are the changes that I'd like to make. And then if you can't come up with a amicable agreement on the change, your contract should have already had some type of clause that says, hey, this is how we exit this contract. You just don't want to get yourself into something that is not again a win-win for you or the other party. And you mentioned something earlier where people can go online. There's tons of free resources, and that's not saying to anybody to go out here and just grab a contract online and implement it. You need to read it. You need to read it, you need to revise it, because some standard contracts, some of that verbiage and some of those actions do not apply to you, and some of that you need to spell out in more detail so that it
Right.
is truly applicable to you and how you operate your business. And a lot of people skip this when they're starting in business because they're excited about the idea and the the money that may or may not be coming in just yet. But this is why it's important to set your mission and your vision and your values.
Mm,
If you don't know what you're ultimately after and how you see this going and what values you and your business and your brand stand on, how they say you stand for nothing, you fall for everything, those contracts will get you. The that's
yeah,
part of what that statement comes from. Or it is definitely applicable, if not where it comes from. You need to
right.
make sure, and how people say, I'm gonna stand on business. That's the easiest way to stand on business. I ain't gotta touch you. I don't gotta do nothing. I can pull this contract out. We can have a conversation. You don't want to agree? I can take it to the court. That was the whole point.
So we talked
Simple.
about a lot of reasons why contracts are important, and I hope that something made sense to y'all listening. But we definitely don't want to just complain about talk about the problems without giving you, something to take away and some not I ain't gonna say real advice because we are giving real advice, but something a little bit more tangible to do. Um, One thing that's very important before you even start writing contracts is you need to understand your business. Like she said, the mission, the value that has to be established because you can't start making rules if you don't know what the rules are for. Right? That's pretty backwards. Using resources as guidelines. Even if you can't take a template and use it, those whatever's on that should make your brain think about, okay, hey, does this apply to my business? Does it do it not? Do I need to get a professional to help me? And don't be afraid to invest in that because if you ever run up on somebody that's trying to sue you, you gonna wish you spent that 500 or even that $5,000, whatever they charge, to go over and make sure that your contract is tight. Because if it's not, you're setting yourself up for failure. What
Absolutely.
is a piece of advice that you would give a business owner that, let's say they're technically still a new business? I feel 2, 3 years is still new because you're learning
Mhm.
and they done ran into a big problem. Now they realize they need a contract. What's the first thing they should do as far as I know
So
they can't do nothing about whatever went wrong, but what's the first thing they should do?
if you're a new person in business and you're now realizing you need contracts where you don't have them, don't just go out and make a bunch of contracts. Take a step back, make sure you list every person or company that you currently do business with. Identify which one of those relationships do you not have written agreements, be it your agreement you provide to them, which is probably not the case in this scenario, um, or more specifically in that scenario, identify those that you're doing business with and they didn't give you an agreement.
Mm,
If you have somewhere they gave you an agreement and you signed it, but now maybe you're saying, I'm gonna change the scenario slightly, the terms just ain't working for you and you need a contract to protect you more than what you feel like you're being protected, or in your initial scenario, you need a contract because you never have one. Think through it. Again, you can go pull somebody in your exact industry, like you mentioned earlier, ask them for copies of their contracts. That is the same thing as going to Google and finding a free resource. You do not just take their template or their contract as law just because they're in the industry. How you do business may be slightly different. So review the contracts that you already got in place or the templates that you're looking at. Make sure if there's payment involved or if payment may become involved later, what are those terms? Are there any deadlines for any part of your business, not just making payment, but providing products and services? If there are cancellation policies, if there are refunds, and specific responsibilities. Depending on your industry, you want to check any type of license, um, insurance, tax registration, anything that may be required. Make sure that stuff is current as much as you can. I know a lot of people out here struggling, but make sure that stuff is current as much as possible. Have that stuff in a row. And again, have an attorney review this information because especially if it's an important contract and don't let somebody else tell you what is important. $100 is important to me. $50 is important to me. Every dollar I earn towards my millions is important to me. Okay.
So,
So any important contract to you, make sure you have an attorney review it. And a lot of people can't see the return on investment sometimes. Why am I paying an attorney to review this contract? Nothing ever goes wrong in this industry. And then you be the one example where something goes wrong and you could have avoided. But especially before you sign any long term or high dollar contract, how to get an attorney to review it. Um, I would also say, I know you said the first thing they would do, but listen, it's
hey,
not a one and done type of thing. It's schedule, put on your personal business calendar the same way you should be putting reminders on your calendar for doing um, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual, different things like bookkeeping type stuff. Put a reminder in there to review these contracts. If you're just
right.
starting out and you've got all your contracts all labeled out today and your clients are using them right now, set a reminder for a year from now to review all those contracts. But every time you create a new contract, you need to put a reminder, an annual reminder to review that contract to make sure it's still serving your needs. You have to become your own compliance partner. What's up, Trick? So listen, make sure you're scheduling those reviews for yourself to review those contracts. I know that's more than just one thing, but it's not just a here's the first thing. The first thing you need to do is just see who are you doing business with. And then now you have to make sure you've got that framework and understanding of I do business with these people. Here's the nature of this framework, and here's where our businesses intersect. So if you don't have a good customer map, a good customer journey to understand how your customer goes from point A to point B, you may be missing those places where you're doing business with other people and not realizing, "Oh, I probably should have a contract there because I'm passing them off here or I'm passing their information off over there." A lot of us have literally signed contracts and don't even realize there's tons of stuff we haven't agreed to. You signed up for Facebook, you signed a contract. You created a website, you signed a contract.
I swear to you,
Simple.
this past few weeks, when you they show you stuff been updated. Like every time I log into something like Snapchat or Facebook, something agree to the terms, and we just click because we
Yep,
want access to Facebook. But then we'll complain about them using our information or doing something. But did you actually read what the hell you just clicked on?
yep,
Or you just click because you know what you're trying to do. And the same way that happens with that is the same way some of us are with business.
yep,
I will gladly take a day to research that contract if I don't understand it enough to sign in front of you. And if a person can't grant you that, then you don't want to do business with them.
right.
That's the first red flag. If somebody's rushing you to sign a contract, hopefully you're not rushing people to sign contracts. But if you feel like you're being pressured or rushed to do something, that's the first red flag. Hey, this is not for me because something ain't right. So
Yep,
respectfully take that time to do your due diligence so that you're not getting yourself caught up in something. And
yep,
also, when you are writing contracts or signing contracts, look to see how long that contract is. You may not want to be in a 12-month agreement with a new whatever that you're going into contract with. So Don't be afraid to ask. Well, can we do a shorter term?
Yeah.
And if everything is well, if everything goes good, I'll gladly sign a 12-month contract. Everything is negotiable.
Yeah.
And if it's not, you don't know until you ask. So I'm always huge on asking questions.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
learn things.
Yeah. But you want to make sure you're reviewing the contract. And again, I mentioned this earlier, those trigger points. Make sure you kind of have good understanding of the trigger points that would prompt you to say, this contract needs to be adjusted, or I need to be able to exit this contract. I think I mentioned it earlier. If a business adds a competing product or service, for example, or they add or modify an existing product or service that was part of the package deal for you to do business with them to start with, you may have rights to sever. You would want to have those rights to sever that contract. If they maybe if they start working with a potential competitor, you may want to get out of that contract. They, I see this in so much. I'm glad they're not contracts when it comes to like your careers, because I've seen times where people have wanted to come work under me as a manager, and they get hired under me, and then I'm on to my next opportunity, and they're literally like, um, I want to go where you're at now. And I'm like, my bad. I'm at another job. But if somebody changes ownership or leadership or their actual business structure, you may be like, oh no, I don't want to do this no more. I only wanted to do it because it was you who was managing the business. Again, they could add a new platform, and maybe that platform stores some of your business, your clients' information. You need to understand that, and you do have the right to, and a lot of times, review their contracts with their with other third parties that they're doing business with. Maybe they add a subcontractor. We've hosted a government contracting workshop in the past, and one
Mm,
of the key things was, you may not be the one who wins the contract, but it doesn't mean you can't go into that system, see who won the contract, and say, hey, do you need help? You have
mhm.
a right to understand who else is helping with that execution, and to say, oh, okay, no, I'm not willing to do that, before you agree to just take the money. And sometimes it's hard, because those be some big contracts sometimes, and sometimes that's as much money you ever seen in your business. And how to say, all money ain't good money.
Money
I know that's a
definitely
hard one too, but all money ain't good money. Sorry.
right.
They may expand into a new market or a new location that's conflicting with you, and maybe that would require you to also expand into that market, and you just can't. Um, what happens if they have a security breach? You need to think about these things. And the core one, what happens if they stop meeting your agreed upon expectations? Like, those are significant changes, and they may require some changes to your initial contract. And those are
Right.
things you need to be thinking about if you're creating your initial contract.
Right. And it all, at the end of the day, it all boils down to protecting your business. And protecting your business is not something you wait to think about after there's a problem. The contracts
Right.
and boundaries, compliance, all of those things are exciting until they're the reason you wish you had paid attention.
Yeah.
Paying attention is free. Paying for being sued could cost a lot. And so I just want you to encourage you, if nothing else that you remember from this conversation tonight, before you sign anything, before you ignore it, or before you partner with somebody, ask yourself, what could this cost me if it goes wrong?
Hmm.
And if you don't know the answer to that question, that means it can cost you a lot.
Yeah, nine times
If
out of
you
ten,
can
that's
answer it, you don't know what you're getting into. And that's a red flag to, you might not need to sign this contract.
yeah.
Okay. Or
I think a lot of us these days, not just business wise, everybody is one major situation away from, a different lifestyle than where you are. And that could be good or bad. So you want to make sure you're using your discernment. If you are providing the service, you should be creating a contract. You should be establishing the scope of the work, the payment terms, what your working process looks like. You should be creating that contract. If you are hiring a contractor or a vendor, you should be creating that contract, not just signing whatever they tell you to sign. Um, if you're granting somebody access to your systems, or your client content or your intellectual property, you need to have a contract in place. And if on the flip side, if somebody's trying to do business with you, um, and they're not providing you a contract, I would be very hesitant. And again, not at all saying there are not situations where this can't happen successfully,
Right.
but you just don't want to be caught on the wrong end of that. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So protect yourself, and no pun intended, but protect yourself in every area of life, y'all, because it's dangerous out here. It is
Yeah.
dangerous out here. A lot of
It's no
things you may,
different from getting insurance.
it's all protection. You don't get insurance because something happened. You get insurance in case or when, to prepare for something happening. And
Hmm.
that's exactly what it's all about, is protecting. Whatever you're building, you work hard to do. Um, and everybody, I believe we all value our dollar. We may have different perspectives about money, but nobody wants to just throw away money. I don't care how much money you have. I work hard for mine, and I'm going to do everything I can to protect it. And if I don't know what I need to do to protect it, it's fine. You're going to ask somebody. I'll ask everybody before I
Yeah.
put myself in a risky situation knowingly.
Yeah.
So,
They love
um,
to say everything's content. I say everything is a contract.
everything is a contract. It is, and you have to look at it that way so that everything is clear. Um, I was trying to find your link, but I want you to tell them about your event you got coming up, because I'm sure y'all
Um,
this. Y'all got a whole 2-day event. I was like, dang, I wish I could go, because that's my son's birthday is on the 27th.
so yeah, so me and one of my other business partners, we have what's called the Power Elevation Collective. Um, and listen, you know, because we've done events together. Um, a lot of times, what happens is you got a room full of people who are motivated, um, but then they leave with the intent to get work done, and nothing gets done. Similar to how we did our nonprofit workshop, like we want you to be able to sit in here, ask questions, take notes. In this case, we're encouraging people, bring your laptop with you. We have four amazing speakers across four different categories. So, foundational structure type information, but not just how do I create an LLC? Should I have an LLC? Not that generic type of information that you can Google or get from one of us from for free. We're diving into more structural information, how your business runs and how you operate. So, some key operational structure that you should have. So, kind of like the conversation we're having now, talking about compliance. This is one of those things your compliance and legal departments, if once you grow to that level of having those departments, would would be talking about. We have Ms. Cheryl Howell, she'll be talking about that topic. We also have our AI specialist, Ikanisha um, Gibbs Jenkins, who's going to be one of our speakers who's going to help you leverage AI in your business. A lot of people are using AI and probably, and I'm guilty of it, but probably using it at its absolute bare form. Okay. Um, you need to get in the room so you can hear how you can actually not just hear, but bring your laptop so she can show you some things. And that way, if you've got questions, we're not saying we're going to solve your whole business in a day. That's not what we're saying. But by all means, you should be able to take some action right there on the call. A lot of people want to get funded with grants. Um, we've got Miss Althea Lewis. She is going to, she's the owner of Grant Lewis, excuse me, Lewis Grant Writing, and she's going to be talking about getting funding for your business, getting ready to get funded. A lot of people think it's just, oh, I need a grant writer. I need a grant writer. You
Mm.
you need more than a grant writer. So she's absolutely a grant writer, but she's going to make sure you're ready and prepared for these grant opportunities. And we also have Miss Charlene Richardson of um, Rose Tax Pro, I believe. Don't quote me on that. She does a lot of stuff. She's got a trucking company, she's got a tax company, and she does business consulting. So listen, charge it to my head, not my heart. But she is also going to talk to people who attend about making sure their books are organized and ready for growth. If you don't know your numbers, you're not going nowhere. Because you might be going somewhere, but you're leaning closer to jail time probably. So because IRS don't play, Uncle Sam don't be playing, and I say this. Ugh, listen, been there, done that, trying to get my life in order. So listen, I'm just telling you, get in the room with people who can help you avoid costly mistakes. Friday night from 6 to 9, it's actually a networking mixer. I have got some. I don't want to tell everybody what some of these raffle things are that we're going to be doing for attendees because I really want people to show up and genuinely want to connect, not just show up because
The
come on
giveaways.
now.
Yeah.
I'm always gonna give away something of value. But that night I don't want you to think you're coming to the traditional networking where it's you pass out a card, you collect a couple cards, or you're playing a networking bingo. No, I want this networking event to be very different in such that you will be able to hopefully, I can't promise anything, but hopefully walk out with a partnership where you can elevate together. Again, power elevation collective. It takes a village to raise a child, it takes a collective to scale a business. Okay. Point blank, period. Add that as a quote. Okay. Attribute
Okay.
that to me. Listen, because I'm going to need y'all to understand we rise together. And this is not an event for any one race. It's not just for females. I know I am proud to coach Black women, but I help anybody. I actually have a lot of male clients, like which is crazy. But I help anybody. But this networking event is meant to actually really get down to what you need and how you can help somebody. So let everybody gets the opportunity to show up. So let's show up for yourself, and in turn, you're gonna end up showing up for somebody. And Saturday, September 26th, that is a full 9 to 5 event. Get somebody to run the shop, set your updates, set your calendars, let them know you're out of office because you're working on elevating your business. Bring your laptop and coming in, listen to what they have to say, ask questions, and then position yourself for what comes after that. Because again, we can't solve all your business issues in one day, but bring your new goal, your new business idea. It doesn't matter where you are in business. Collective elevation happens at every single stage. You could
I
have
love.
customers in the room.
Yeah. You never know who's gonna be in the room. Like I spoke at a. You had said you were a project. You had said the term project manager, and I was like, I talked to a whole group of project managers last night, and in the room, they had asked the question. They said, "What is something that you're, more that you're kind of struggling with that you probably, if you had to pass the torch or pass it on to someone else, how would you do that?" And so I told him, I was like, I suck at delegating.
A
I
lot of
love
us do.
I love to make sure that what I'm doing works and that my hands are on it. And one of the young ladies in the chat said, you need to connect with such and such. She does da 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 da. I said, what's the best way to connect? She sent me her email. Tell her I sent you. just like that, just from being on the Zoom with other project managers. I mean, I'm not a project manager. I was there to speak, but you never know who's in the room, and you never know who you need to connect with if you don't open your daggone mouth. People go to, and we ain't gonna get into that because that's a whole nother episode in itself. Networking, like, y'all got the whole thing misconstrued. Y'all just think y'all networking because y'all sitting in the room with a bunch of people, but y'all ain't talking to no damn body.
That's not networking. And I don't care what it doesn't mean, not just a business function. I work the door for a friend of mine has a cigar social. Shout out to Black Men Brunch too. The
I'm
cigar
coming, Black
social,
man brunch.
please come, please come. He does great work when it comes to men's mental health. But this is one of those avenues. But this particular event, he's made it co-ed, and there's a lot of women who come in, a lot of handsome men who come in, and I sit there at the door sometimes, and I'm taking video and I'm watching, and I'm just like, why y'all ain't talking to nobody? Like, what's up? Like, please don't come in the room and just not say anything to anybody. Now, I don't get me wrong, I get it. I'm an introvert, so I'm
Right,
happy to sit right at the top and mind my business and collect the money at the door and usher you on to have a good time. But
right.
I'm also getting out of my comfort zone, and that is one of those things that you've just got to open your mouth and say hello, and it doesn't have to turn into a full-blown business contract. A lot of times they won't manifest into anything that day. But 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when a person has scaled and they're ready, they're going to remember you.
Yeah,
They're going to remember you
yeah,
because you open your mouth. Now there's some techniques to that too, but I'm just saying you got to say something. 9 times out of 10 they're probably going to remember you.
yeah. And that's what it's about, standing out, and like I said, networking. I can talk about networking all day because I love networking. I really do.
I think you should
But
teach a class on it, friend. That's what I
I'm,
think. I
I'm
really
working
think you should
in
do
the
that.
making. Like,
Okay,
people have
yeah.
been requesting me do certain things. I'm like, oh, I already got that. You know what I'm saying? This, I've been working on this. Just been waiting on the demand. Um, but yeah. So y'all make sure y'all protect y'all businesses with contracts, insurance, and partnering with. I mean, come
Right.
on, right? Partnerships matter. Don't
Yeah.
attach yourself to people that's not in alignment with what you stand for. I don't care what the monetary gain looks like. Your reputation is everything. Don't nobody
Yeah.
care that you made $1 million this year if you treat people like shit. All right? I know I
Yeah, you
don't.
can have the prettiest graphics, you can have the greatest funnel. Listen, but if you suck, people gonna know. And if your contracts don't hold up to your standards, or if another person's contract doesn't hold up to your standards, that's a problem. That's a problem. And I'm not saying I don't want anybody to walk away if they're just tuning in, catching the last little bit of this. Don't walk away thinking, oh, I don't have any contracts in place. I'm doing a terrible job. You're listening and you're going to take action after this. And you have to promise yourself that you're going to take action after this. Like I've got another contract I need to work up because I'm advancing the Black Beauties United magazine is about to launch pretty darn soon. So contracts have been written. I need some more. I've gotten interview questions finalized from issue one's cover feature, and I am super excited. And somebody I know is going to get some questions for an upcoming issue cover soon. Shout out to Miss Sandra B. So yeah, she'll be getting those contracts too. And if she don't sign that contract, guess what? She will not be on the cover. I love my friend, but she will not be on the cover if she don't sign my contract.
And look, this my girl. I know her contract gonna be tight, but I'm gonna do us both due diligence, and I'm gonna read my contract before signing.
Exactly.
That's how you do business. And she's not going to be offended by that. It's just as
Not at
I'm not going
all.
to be offended by her sliding me that contract because it protects both of us.
Yeah,
So if it don't protect both of y'all, then that's another red flag. So
absolutely.
implement something that we told y'all tonight, even if it's just reviewing your contracts. You might think your contracts are tight, and they might be. Hey, you might
And
not
that's
need this, but help somebody can do. You got a business bestie that whose contracts are probably not tight as yours. So pass the information along. Share this video. It may help someone that you know if it doesn't help you. You can't even
Sorry.
stop me.
People, you say 7 to 8 and people take it literally.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They don't text before they FaceTime you.
But yeah,
It's
all
okay.
right. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure y'all like, comment, and share and subscribe to the channel. We will see y'all next month. Unless you're in the
Yes.
group, then you'll see us every day. But until next
Yeah.
time,
Yeah. And drop your advice too. We
yes,
we we are not perfect. I'll accept any advice that comes in that helps me out.
that's
Y'all
right.
have a good rest of your day and a good rest of your week.
All right. You too, Miss V. I see
Bye.
you.